the game if they get a lead.
They absolutely can. Luckily for G2, they fell behind early against Unicorns of Love last week. The analyst desk was talking about it, and G2 bounced back. Reminder, we are on patch 6.12, ladies and gentlemen. Caitlyn, Azir already taken off the table from Schalke.
That Caitlyn's a big one. Sven is undefeated on Caitlyn, 5-0. Schalke don't want to get that out onto the Rift. On the other side, we've got Vladimir and Nidalee banned away, both fairly standard bans here for a current patch. We've seen a lot of first picks on both of those champions.
So I'm looking for traditional red side ban that I'm not seeing, and Ryze is currently screaming at me. It has been banned against G2 8 times, and they've only banned it themselves once, but of course, I don't know if you want to run the risk of giving that away.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a back and forth when we'll see what the last ban actually is going to be. After the Nidalee, we're seeing a Gragas. This kind of forces Gilius to first pick Elise in this scenario. It's really his best jungle that we've seen out of him. It's only the Gragas that he's done well on the side of that.
So maybe some clever pick and ban planning here from G2, predicting that Elise to a certain extent. But what did G2 take in response? Perkz has been the recipient of a Ryze ban, targeted many, many times. Would you think it's worth picking up?
It's, you know, it's one of those picks that you can take here, but at the same time, we've seen it drastically drop down in priority in a lot of mid laners' actual champion pools, just from the way that, you know, we've seen a lot of focus around the mid lane recently. So you can pressure out a Ryze fairly early on, deny him getting into the game.
All right, so not going to be the case then. Where did G2 prioritize? Saw the little Hecarim hover. Actually seeing a little bit of play. Saw it in LPL, saw it in Challenger. Hell, we even saw a Skarner earlier today. And for G2, it's most likely going to be this duo lane of Karma and Sivir. So safe, versatile, and really you can build anything around those two champions.
Yeah, we could even see the Hecarim come out later on in the draft. This is the perfect kind of setup for it that you were alluding to, that we've seen a few times over in LCK, LPL. Mithy, this will be his third game on Karma right now. Everybody else has been having Karma as their first pick champion. Just like, lock it in for me, I'll play 4 games. Mithy's kind of tended away from that, so I'm now interested to see how they're going to do with this setup. Karma Sivir, obviously a massive amount of speed boost that's going to come out here. I'm looking over at Rales of what he's going to look towards now, because Civ is his most played champion. Does he go to the Lucian? Does he go to the Ezreal? There have been a couple of changes on the itemization that we'll pick up on when we go into game, depending on who Rales locks in.
Got a lot of time to figure that one out. You'd expect maybe the duo lane will be the safe one. You're not revealing any information, and you sort of know what you're coming up against. And instead, it will be the AD carry Ezreal, as well as the mid laner of Victor. 3 games played for Fox, so some comfort picks here, really. No big surprises, despite there being a new patch.
No, nothing huge on this, especially these champions haven't been hit too hard with the adjustments. Only really Ezreal is going to have an adjustment depending on how he builds, whether it's the Trinity Force route that we have seen a couple of times, or the blue build might end up getting the Blade of the Ruin King that was adjusted, plus the last Whisper items. We'll keep a track of that as we continue. So what does Perkz want for the mid lane? That really is my next question here, because against the Victor, doesn't have the option of the Azir. Karma could go to the mid lane. They could do that swap up, have Karma mid, and choose a different support. So G2 may just sit on this for a while and not yet lock in.
All right, gonna swap over the last few seconds. Rek'Sai for Trick. That is a terrifying prospect to come up against. One of his best champions, and that Ryze will finally come in. So all of my preamble and my excitement around this champion has finally come to pass. And they're going to allow Expect the option to counter pick. His Fizz has had some nerfs on this patch, but he did play good Maokai as well. So you can decide which direction you want to go here for G2.
And the direction I want to look at for Schalke now is, what does Steve lock in? The Aurelia that we've started seeing very commonly is available, but it's not the kind of pick that Steve likes to play time and time again. He's played 1 game on it, and he's played 1 game on another kind of carry when you look at the Na, but honestly, it doesn't really fit him down to a T. So will he stick on a tank? Will he play something that can duel and split push? We'll see if Schalke have adjusted their top lane in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I feel like a front line would be something Schalke would be needing. Buy some time for Victor and Ezreal to get damage out, and there we go, the Braum and the Trundle. So it will be that split pushing potential from Trundle, as well as some front line standing power. Also somewhat dissuades you for going the likes of Maokai maybe. But
Certainly does.
if Expect wanted to run an aggressive pick, maybe not, could be an option for him too.
Yeah, it is an option. We've seen Expect predominantly playing Irelia, hasn't been all that successful for him. is an individual pick, and I'd be interested to see how he can cope with Steve on Trundle in this game if this does get locked in. It takes away a lot of the ability to play tanks here, but saying that, G2 also have a lot of engage potential, or at least assistance on the engage. When you look at a Sivir, you look at a Karma, things that can allow them to get into a fight. So if he does want to run something like a Maokai, it's not a great matchup over in a side lane, but grouped together, and the comp is perfectly made for it.
Oh yes, especially when you add in Ryze and Sivir and Karma all for grouping. That is a terrifying prospect. We will not see that though. And Expect's going to run this Irelia. So just for context, of the 2 games that G2 have lost, Expect was playing Irelia top.
Yep, that
Admittedly, he does have 1 win with the champion as well. But now we need to see whether or not Steve can get some pressure. And really, nothing surprising in these team comps. I feel like they're very core meta, so to speak. What are you expecting from the early game from these teams now?
Well, from the early game, as Ezreal Braum is pretty much unkillable.
Yeah.
And you've got to be careful going into it. I wonder whether we'll see Sven and Mithy look for the lane swap. We've seen a lot of lane swaps out of both of these teams when it comes to being able to press their advantage early on. So I'm excited now because Schalke even out lane swap Fnatic in the beginning of their series. So they are fairly deadly when it comes to those tower pushes. I want to see if they do the same thing again.
Yeah, the trick is to maintain that lead and use it going forward, right?
Yep.
And we'll find out whether or not Schalke can go toe-to-toe because they are sitting squarely in the middle of the table. Analyst Desk alluded to it coming in, the Schalke as a team. I think there was low expectations overall, and despite the ups and downs already, it has been generally a positive trend for this squad.
Yeah, it has generally been a positive trend. I'm looking forward now as we get into this game to see whether G2 can hold Schalke's early game. I feel like they should be able to, but on this one, honestly, it could be a tough one. If Schalke find themselves in the lane swap, it has been particularly good for them.
All right, lane swap or not, let's find out who's going to get the advantage. Game 1 of week 4 here at the mid-lane week in the European LCS. You guys know the deal on Twitter. Throw up those votes and tell us who you think is going to win. As we load up onto the Rift, double teleports on the side of G2 Esports. And Schalke 04 have got the flash exhaust.
Yes.
For Fox in the middle lane. I think that's very clever because Irelia and Ryze are going to be running at him and diving at him multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that deals with an Irelia, it's double exhaust on a team. She goes in, gets exhausted, you burst her down, she has to go away. She tries to come back in, you exhaust her again. And that pretty much is all she wrote on that one. Irelia has fairly low effect in any kind of team fight situation in that circumstance. So, from G2, first little bit of damage onto Sprattle.
There's some golf claps here in the audience for that skill shot connecting. I'm not seeing any lane swap shenanigans here. It's too...
Still a little early, just for it to settle. Sometimes you'll see the fake out. Mithy's going to drop back in vision and allows them maybe to readjust, but it depends. We'll keep our eyes on Expect here. You can see G2 have gone down to the bottom side. It's Schalke that are swapping things up to the top side here as Rales crosses through his own jungle. So Schalke have a record of 10 out of 12 first towers in their games. We'll see if they can maintain that, extend it to 11 out of 13. G2, however, they've got the Sivir, they've got Karma, good champions to be able to push pretty quickly here, but contending with an Ezreal on the side of Schalke. It's on Steve and Expect to see where they go.
All right, so the ticking timer now. With those lane swaps with the 10 out of 12 games for first tower taken. I'm always interested on the second tower and then what happens, right? Because I actually think for the most part, all EU LCS teams are very good at the first phase of this lane swap. It's become a little bit more predictable, dare I say. Although this is a little bit of an adjustment from Mithy. Apply some pressure in the mid lane. Perks doesn't have an extra level. Exhaust comes down. Fox is being chunked. 150 down to 100. Flashes for his life.
Too early for the Rune Prison to come out on that one from Perks. It's still on the first wave, but they get the flash. That's everything that they wanted. And a lot of that is because as Mithy went hunting through the lower side jungle, finds them on the Raptors, says, okay, I'm going to delay our push here. I'm going to go gank the middle lane, try and get ourselves ahead from our carry in the middle lane. And that's exactly what they've done for now. Fox is going to have to play a little bit safer here.
Oh, very much so. The potential kill threat from really anybody roaming could be beneficial for G2. Wind speakers on Perks' Rise. Wind speakers on Fox's Victor. So
Storm Riders.
Sorry,
just for the
Storm
record.
Riders,
You said wind speakers. I was looking at mine. I was like, why has he got?
Yeah,
It's okay.
I always get the names backwards.
It's okay. It looks like there's a lot of wind in his cloak behind him. So at that point, oh, don't want to think about that too much.
Yeah.
At that point, it's all good. That's fairly standard. And speaking of fairly standard, we are actually seeing both turrets go down at roughly the same time. You can see Steve will get the last hit on the top one first. But
does that maintain their first tower record?
It does. That does count as first tower. So 11 out of 13. Trend stands, Trevor.
It does. I think this one was a gift, though, because Mithy opted to gank in the mid lane.
Yeah, they lost flash for it on
Exactly.
Victor.
Yeah, they did indeed.
Did you know another trend?
Tell me.
Fox has not given up first blood for his team this split yet. So,
Yet?
Hey, there's still time in this game. All I'm saying is Flash is now down. We'll see how safe he plays off that Flash being down. So it's on G2 to try and punish that.
For any Schalke fans watching, Stress has just cursed them. That is the definition
I'm sorry.
of cast a curse. There's actually one guy yelling boo in the audience. All right, so Mantra on that inner flame from Mithy. A little bit of a slowdown on Steve. He's got himself 9 CS as he'll get rooted in place. Mithy's just going to keep chasing him and zoning him away. What was Expect able to get from the lane? Both level 2s on the tops, both 6 CS, and both recalling. Just keeping track of who can keep their opposing top laner controlled or contained.
Expect is a little further out of the base now by a couple of seconds, and despite the Flash being burned early, of course Victor has a fairly easy time in the early game, has got a CS lead for himself in mid lane, so Schalke are doing all right now.
I think I caught Perks with the blue buff as well, so very early blue buff for Perks in that middle lane.
Yeah, you are correct, he does, but look, there's a teleport coming out of Steve. This is to now accelerate the second part, and this is what Schalke have commonly done. Expect didn't have to use his, and he's going to be there slightly later, so the actual knock-on effect from this shouldn't be too bad for the side of G2. They'll have teleport advantage. What they will likely lose out on is the Dragon. If Schalke go over there, however, it's Cloud Drake. Nobody really prioritizes it.
Yeah.
We may not even see Schalke go for it.
Yeah, I think a few more levels, a few more items, take that dragon quicker, and then the potential cost is lower. Despite the teleport, it looks like G2 have done a good job. They actually take the tower about half a second quicker.
It's because G2 left a lot of their players around there to actually push it down faster. Steve gets a few more tower shots onto the minions. It's slower, but at the same time, he gets the majority of the benefit there.
So we just caught a glimpse there of Gilius on Elise. It is, I think, his most impressive looking champion this split. And I want to see how he handles himself.
Ooh, Perks is TPing in.
He absolutely is. Look, Trick's coming in from behind. There's no flash available.
Oh, they've got
Exhaust comes down
Fox!
at the Trick. Fox is in trouble. It's not enough, and first blood secured for the first time in summer on Fox.
Oh, I'm sorry, Fox. Not 2 minutes after I say it, he gets ganked again on... Honestly, you've got to look at this scenario. Why would Perks TP into the middle lane? Why would you have to protect from that? Well, its Trick is aside the lane, looking for the gank path in on this Rek'Sai. And this is one of the reasons why every single time Trick has played Rek'Sai, he has secured player of the game for his team. He's been so instrumental in the early game, so instrumental in fights. This is a great pick for G2.
It really is. It's a good start to the game already. G2 able to secure a successful gank with Mithy roaming, then first blood. Look, just out of vision on the minimap, Trick is going to roam in. And they just executed this so well.
Yeah, I mean, from here, knock up from Trick is easy peasy. No flash from Fox is able to take him down.
I love it. Literally 2 minutes after saying he hasn't given
Sorry,
first blood.
Fox.
Yep, it happens. Cast a curse, man. It is a real thing. Absolutely real. Gilius, though, to go back to the original talking point, is a guy who showed up in week 1, struggled in week 2, and then had a mixed week 3, right? So now we start to see some of these expectations of his play become normalized. As you've got 2 extreme cases, and he's on his arguably most comfortable champion, which was first pick, so there's even more pressure.
Even more pressure, but if there has been one pick really that has worked for Schalke, it has been that Elise. Honestly, when Gilius is playing it, he looks like a different player. We've seen a couple of games that have been really rough on the Rex side where we're like, oh, honestly, Gilius, he's reaching too far, he's looking for too much. But on the Elise, he's looked pretty good.
Yeah, the Gragas games in particular stand out for me. You know, when to go in, his barrel usage wasn't the greatest. And it just caused some troubles. We got a glimpse there of Sven and Mithy running across the ward, so Schalke would have been well aware of it. In terms of the lane assignments, the duos will be meeting now in the top despite no towers being there.
The thing is now Expect is getting punished. Look at where Expect is on the map. Look, he's going to run over a ward and try and push down into enemy territory. He's doing it right now because Trick is on the enemy red. They have enough vision control, but what they can't do is punish Steve, who actually is coming up to collapse through the jungle. They're actually going to try and fight this, which I'm not sure if this is the right option. And Steve actually left the wave there. He should have been able to farm out that entire wave and get a little ahead when it comes to experience and farm. But for now, he was looking to assist for just a moment. So it's a 2v2 bottom side. I don't really feel like Schalke are going to want this for now, at least.
So I feel like early potential, if a Cocoon doesn't connect, is in favor of G2. Expect's going to jump into the lane. Marginally behind in experience. You can see level 4 to level 5. But CS is pretty close.
It becomes apparent when you look at the actual experience. Expect's a whole level behind.
Expect he stepped too far forward and then got a pillar in his face, taking that tower shot.
Steve's only a few minions from 6 here. If this pushes under the tower and Expect sticks around, he may very well end up losing just from the power of Subjugate there, just to get extra back for Steve. Flash in the top jungle.
Flash for flash. Felt like there was a half-second delay there on that Cocoon. But Mithy, slightly easier target to gank next time.
Next time, Gadget. We'll see how that works out. Trick, first ultimate of the game, just to the top side. No real impact, but he's going to be able to secure his top side jungle here as well. See what the damage was on the bottom side. So Trick actually left one of the small minions or monsters on the red camp bottom side. So that's why it's still showing as being alive on the Schalke red jungle. So that's going to be frustrating for Gilius again. Trick going to edge himself ahead.
He will, and as we crest over the 10-minute mark, G2 have got themselves a small lead. It's only 600 gold. A lot of fan vote as well, 62%. But it's an early game where if you're just looking at the inches taken, the small advantages, it's in favor of G2. Multiple ganks, they've got summoners, they've got a kill. And now G2 are even starting off on this dragon, It's safe, and truthfully, there's a wave being pushed into Expect up top, and a wave, I believe, coming towards G2 in the bottom. There's not a lot being lost for this objective.
Yeah, there isn't too much being lost here at all. Even though it's Cloud, now they're going to be able to get the read on the next dragon, see what it is, see if it's anything useful. It's Infernal. That tends to be fairly useful when you look at it. But we've just passed the 10-minute mark, and G2 actually have the lead in 2/3 of their games at 10 minutes. So this is a pretty familiar territory for them, but they're about to lose the tower, and they're about to lose the lead.
It is familiar territory for most of the team. Unfortunately for Sven, though, he was actually behind in CS at 10. That's not something we're actually used to seeing, if at all. That will make Vedius a little unhappy, because we've been taking a closer look at the 80 carries here in Europe. Sven traditionally up 12. He found himself down around 9 for that game.
Yeah.
Not that it really matters, right? Like right now, but it's just an observation.
12 is quite a lot for an 80 carry. That is actually rank 1 out of European 80 carries when you look at it at a 10-minute lead. We've got to take a look at how the rest of the game plays out, though, because a lot of what Sven is doing, as with most 80 carries, is later on into the game. That honestly is where Sven gets so many of his kills in team fights, and playing a Sivir, he's going to look for exactly that. But it's not really the bottom lane that we want to focus on right now. It's the top side. Because, again, Schalke have been able to get resources into Steve. He's ahead when it comes to farm. He's ahead on levels still. And that makes it very difficult for Expect actually to sit over in a side lane like he wants to. Also, the fact that Expect doesn't have a tower in this lane now means he can only just about push up to where he is right now without the vision control. He's going to get a few minions off this wave, but will have to concede once Schalke show up.
This is a worrying sign, because Steve is going to be able to go further ahead. Gilius and Trick are in the same area, so no real play is going to come from that. But I think the wave is pushing towards Steve, so if he wants to freeze it, if he wants to control it, can extend. The cost here, though, is Trick has been able to steal a lot of camps from Gilius. He's up around 15 CS, Merc Trader and Cinderhulk. That is already a tanky Rek'Sai. And we could see a duel being set up in the top lane.
Yeah, it looks like we may see it kick off, but both junglers know the other are here, I'm pretty sure. Gilius knows that as he was moving initially, would have been spotted out by Trick. So I actually think it's probably going to result in not a lot happening here. Trick's going to back away to his own jungle. However, it's whether Gilius goes back up to the top side. There is no ward that would be spotting him out. Only just... but you can see, look at it, expect backed away from the lane. Just in the right time, reading that there was the potential for Gilius to be heading top.
Those spidey senses tingling, excuse the pun, as Gilius was approaching. So, again, it's G2. They're not making massive inroads into Schalke's territory, but catching the waves, making up some of those CS deficits. Sven's been able to bounce back. He was down 10 or 12 at one point. Now he's up because of this wave shenanigans that he's been playing.
Take a look at the bottom lane. Now that we've got Perks strong enough to go down into the side lane, he's got his Rud, he's got his tier, he's stacking up. So Perks is able to play on the second lane like he wants to. The same with Expect. They want to play over 3 lanes, have very strong side laners, and then just hold in the middle lane. That's what Mythy and Trick are trying to do here.
Sprottle's brave.
Just poking
Sprottle's
out.
very brave. The resolve locks him down on the hunt. Flash over the wall. Stand behind me, he yells.
Ooh, hang on, Rales.
Gilius to taxi. Rales is able to channel that arcane shift. Perks is running. He flashed forward for that one. Rales gets away with his life, and G2, they set up control.
Yeah, you can see how quickly G2 are able to cover for each other in that scenario. Come down through the pathways into the jungle and try and take themselves a fight. Steve's going to push up a minion wave. That when you look at it, I believe it's going to die just before Expect can get there. Yeah, he's not going to be able to make it in time, even if he did have his ult available, which he didn't. That's a tower passively going down to Schalke.
Down 38 CS. You know, the lane swap lane assignments have gone heavily in favor of Schalke on their top lane. Trick and Sven are doing well to sort of counterbalance that weakness for G2. But it's going to be a while before Expect Irelia is going to be a scary threat, especially with those 2 exhausts.
Oh yeah, a long, long time, because they somehow have to get Expect ahead over in a side lane scenario rather than being able to team fight, because as you said, 2 exhausts means he's never going to get anything done when he gets there. They have to, in that situation, rely on Perks, rely on Sven to actually bring the damage.
And one of those damage sources is Perks. He thinks he's setting a trap, but he's the one that's surrounded. Cocoon lands from Steve. He gets a chair from Sprattle, and Steve gets the kill. Schalke, they're on the board.
And this is the kind of thing that we've started seeing from G2 a little bit too much, perhaps. That they're trying to make these fancy trap plays. They're looking for things. And all of a sudden, you get collapsed upon. You don't have the numbers advantage, and Perks gets caught out.
If there's one advantage for G2. Between Mythy and Sven, there's quite a lot of wave clear.
Aye.
Mantra Qs plus Boomerang means that wave is shredded where it stands. But unfortunately, it means Fox and the rest of Schalke can get uncontested damage on the mid-outer.
Yeah, it's damage for now if the rest of the team group... Hang on, here comes a double TP coming through.
Oh, that's
G2 want to fight.
G2, Expect and Perks, they have arrived. Schalke did not expect that one. Perks takes down Rals. Sprockle follows shortly thereafter at the cost of Trick and Expect's life. Schalke are trying to turn this one around, but Mythy says no. Sends forward the inner flame, secures the kill, and G2 come away 3 for 2.
Oh, big fight for G2 in that scenario. I don't think Schalke were really expecting the double TP that came out there. And when you look at how that played out, Irelia goes in, but it's Perks that's cleaning up a lot of the damage. Yes, there was some damage that came out from the rest of the team, and Sven was in the mix too, but that was a pretty good fight for G2 off that double TP. When we take a look at it, we'll be able to look a little closer. But Infernal Drake is pretty much up. That's where Trick's headed for.
That's very big. If G2 are able to get the team fight, as well as the Infernal, uncontested, but it does look like Schalke slowly coming around. There is a steal opportunity. True Shot Barrage is available. Sprattle, I don't think you're going to steal it with Winters. Ooh, that was close.
Close.
By Trick in the end.
But in the end, pretty much like Graves on that one. But Schalke, this was them pushing up to the tower. Here they had to be careful because they didn't really have their flanks warded, and they were pushing up. And look, G2 had wards on both sides for this, so they get in. Again, Trick starts the fight, able to get a lot of, crowd control off. Fox gets exhausted, but it's a little late on in the fight because the double kills already come through. And from there, Sven and Perk still dealing damage on that fight. Had to respect what Fox was bringing to the table, though.
Yeah, they did. Thanks to the work that Fox had done earlier in that middle lane, Schalke secured their 4th tower of the game. The outer, it was caught in that little picture-in-picture. G2 were able to secure the Infernal Drake. The next one will be another Infernal, so we can expect some sort of shenanigans and team fights in around 5 minutes' time. But G2, they're behind in gold, up in kills, down in towers. So another sort of even early game, actually. And now we can see the strength of the team's mid-game and map-based calls.
There you can see the damage from the last fight. That's how much 2 exhaust will do for Nireli. Drops it all the way down to 461 damage. Everybody on the every other side was pretty even, apart from Rales, who got burst down early on in that fight. So G2 still maintaining territorial control here, perhaps, when you look at it. Still looking for enemy buffs, despite being behind. This is one thing that they're actually very good at, establishing dominance over one half of the map and saying, no, this is our half now.
We're going to keep making plays in that half of the map. G2 should be able to secure the Rift Herald uncontested. I expect this to go to expect. Oh, that's going to be hard.
It's so hard not to say.
It's going to be
like,
so hard.
I think this is the 3rd series I've done of G2 with expect, and it's... I've had to use like anticipate.
I'm actually going to have to get a thesaurus after this. I'll do that after game 1 to see if we can find some. I anticipate the buff will be picked up by expect.
Now I need a new word.
Yep. See, it's fine. Comes with the territory, comes with the job. But expect is still down, right? 30 CS. Yes, there's a Triforce there, but he's coming up against the Merc Treads, the Titanic Hydra, as well as the Spectre's Cowl. So I think Steve is in a very good position for now. And it's going to be interesting to see how G2 play this mid-game, because there's no strong advantage, and there's, I think, a lot of scaling on both sides.
The thing is, though, Subjugate will not steal damage reduction away, so that will always persist for expect. So while that's a minor interaction in that scenario, it is something that is worth keeping an eye on. As we will hopefully at one point see expect and Steve go head-to-head, but you can see right now, it was mainly G2 playing on their side of the map with their Aurelia, trying to get her farmed back up. She's so far behind in CS that is the big tipping point between the two. If somehow they can let expect farm up for the next 10 minutes, he will become a threat.
Important to note as well, Mr. Riles did go for that Trinity Force build. We've seen a few more of them in the last couple of weeks after the Man Immune. Archangel Staff already completed for Perks, done a great job of stacking those tiers, while Sven has gone the Essence Reaver route. And Steve's not going to be able to 1v1 expect because he's in the middle lane. He was actually jumped by a few G2 members, while the rest of G2 are just playing on the side lanes. Well, the teleport users anyway. Yeah,
TP users going to hang out in those side lanes. You can see Rales putting damage down onto Perks. Of course, no Iceborne Gauntlet now that he's gone for the Trinity Force, so he's able, well, not able to get the slow, but will have a little bit more overall damage when you look at the fights. So for Rales and the rest of Schalke, they want to secure that top side. However, they don't have a turret up there because they kind of got that one from the minions earlier. So this is a lot more about trying to just secure vision control and then cut down behind G2 if G2 overextend in the middle lane, which when you look at where they are on the map, here comes the TP though. Fox, they're all going for him.
Great flash away, teleport for flash. G2, they don't even get position on the tower. Now all of a sudden, G2, they've bitten off more than they can chew. Expect is caught out or finds Mr. Rolls rather. Sprotle saves his life. Exhaust comes down before Rolls is taken out. Sprotle will now be in trouble. Perks and Expect looking to turn around on Schalke. This is messy everywhere. Trick sends out a Prey Seeker to secure a kill as Sven's running for his life. What comes up must go down, and Gilius sinks in the fangs. Here comes Perks, not before he eats a cocoon. Slow from Miffy, looking for those overloads. A very nice pillar of ice will slow down Perks, but it may not be enough for Gilius to get away. G2 have lost Sven only and taken 3 members of Schalke in return.
They're being run around the map for now, though. You can see Trick's just going to clear out topside. Miffy has to be careful because Gilius will turn this one around, given the opportunity.
He can. He's flashed forward for this one. The bite comes down. Cocoon connects as well. Gilius is rooted in place, will not be able to secure the kill, and Trick gets his 3rd of the game.
Miffy proved too tempting a target. Would have been an easy kill if it had been on his own, but Miffy, of course, as a Karma, has a lot of utility, keeps himself alive for just long enough for the rest of G2 to rally around him. But that fight, honestly, the thing that turns that is the fact that Expect forgoes the majority of that fight and says, I don't care. I'm going to get Mr. Rales. There's an Ezreal running through the jungle, and he's not going to be able to survive against me. And honestly, that is the key factor there, because there was no way for Schalke to regroup, and they actually get split off. So this is the very beginning of the fight, which actually happens over 3 portions of the map. First, Fox manages to run back away and get himself clear, which is key here because look at the damage that Chaos Storm is doing. But from here, Expect knows that there's an Ezreal in his jungle, and he's going to find him. Takes him out very early on. Sprattle, too late, too little too late with that exhaust there. Everything goes the way of G2, but mid lane.
Oh, we got to jump back live because the Infernal Dragon's up. Mithy's caught out. Somehow Schalke find him. Expects running for his life. He's going to get caught up by the concussive blows thanks to Sprattle's Braum. 2 members down for the #1 squad in the European LCS, and Schalke, they set their sights on an Infernal Drake.
This will be an important Infernal Drake for them here, because not only are they tied up now on the goal totals, they will have, I believe it's 1 Infernal apiece now. I'm just going to double check that.
Yep,
I believe
1
it's
Infernal
just an error.
An additional cloud for G2.
Yes, so they're going to be even on that damage amplification here. And this is what I was talking about, Trevor, before this game. There is the possibility for this to go back and forth here, because you would expect G2 to be a heavy favorite, but Schalke have shown us time and time again that they do have early game plays. It typically is later that they fall apart, so maybe we're about to see 2 teams that don't really have the cleanest decision making in the late game go towards the late game, Trev.
We have to find out, because I was thoroughly impressed with the come-from-behind win that G2 had set up last week. I'm looking at the mini-map, so Mithy...
He's on a ward, just tries to go aggressive.
Unexpected, I think. The unexpected Steve's Trundle is the deadliest.
Yeah, very deadly at that point. And then Expect tries to go in. Cocoon, Gideus once again using this Elise to great effect. And honestly, it looked like G2 would have been fine in that scenario, but the way that they were kind of blocked by terrain meant they couldn't go aggressive as much as they wanted to.
Well, in picks and bans, we talked about Trick's Rek'Sai and just how good he is on that champion.
Yes.
3-1-3, plus around 40 CS at the moment. Great position. We also somewhat criticized Expect's Irelia. Now, there's a little bit of Expect playing the champion and a little bit of the lane swap affecting him, but he's not had the greatest first 20 minutes, and it's been tough.
Yeah, I mean, he started to farm his way back into the game, and to be fair to him, it is a lot about resource allocation in the lane swap. Expect ended up in a situation where his lane was pushed away from him. Steve was collecting it on the other side and was busy getting experience. And
oh, did Sven get that?
No, Sven didn't.
No, he did not.
I believe Gileas.
Ralls. Thank you, observers. They have highlighted Ralls.
Gileas has one too. I got baited. Observers, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Ooh.
It was Gileas. Ralls is
Just
2/3 left.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, observers. I love you normally.
They're framing the owl here.
I
not
know,
the red
right?
buff, just for the record. What was it? Steve?
It's Kevin.
Oh, Kevin.
Oh, it
Good
doesn't
name.
matter because here's the
Boomerang
trap.
comes out. Trix in trouble. Glacial Fissure goes down, but Trix is able to flash away. Fools you, Schalke. Sven's running for his life. Down to 100 hit points. Mr. Rolls takes him out with a true shot barrage. Perks is already exhausted. Schalke are running low. Teleport's going to come in from Expect, but it might be too late. Perks takes one with him before Miffy and Trick are hiding in the bushes. It's a 1-for-2 in favor of Schalke.
And Expect just was not prepared to TP in early enough. And then when he does TP, actually goes straight up to top lane and ends up doing nothing in that fight. That was a real poor use of the teleport. That's one of the things we criticized with Expect coming into this lineup, and here he goes!
He's not done! Through the exhaust, he gets 2! Expect is alive! He's inspired by Miffy, not before Steve chomps him down. Steve is rooted in place, and Trick and Miffy run away. But we need a slow-mo of those double, because that was crazy damage.
Well, we're not going to get it quite yet. We'll get the first trap to begin things off. So Trick with a good flash over the wall avoids the Braum ultimate. From here, keep your eyes on Expect and where the TP comes from. Sven is already dead by the time that TP even decides to come through. But look at the damage that came onto the rest of Schalke here. They're communicating with the rest of G2 here that Schalke are low enough for an Irelia to come in and clean up, and there's only 1 exhaust left on Schalke, so there is still the opportunity, and this is a much better play out of Expect. He's already in the area, knows he can go in. Here comes his slow-mo, Trevor. There's the first one, gets the reset on the Q, has to flash to get over the wall for the second, even through the exhaust from Fox. it was enough to pick up the second and runs into the troll at that point.
Yeah.
So that one wasn't going to go that way. But
Absolutely not. Steve, 3-0-5, Spirit Visage, Titanic. Got the Warden's Mail for the time being as well. Getting tankier and tankier with each fight. Perks, though, getting a lot more damage. Void Staff completed. Null Magic as well as Cloth Armor getting some tanky stats to back up that Roa and the shield from Archangels. And still, despite G2 not being as dominant, maybe, as at least I would have expected, they've still got a gold lead. There's still someone in control. Sven is just getting chunked down. Fox is flashing forward. Death Ray, true shot. Oh. Sven, that was a little close. Gilius has found Trick. Queen of the Zersite, cocooned up. Baron has been employed to help out Schalke. G2 forced away. So with the chunk damage and the flash blown on Sven, this could be pivotal in the next few minutes.
could be. Trick will not quite have his ultimate either, had just used it before getting caught out there. So I don't think Schalke are going to all in for the Baron in this scenario, but one thing they do have to be careful of is look at where Perks is on the map. All the way down in the bottom lane pushing through, so he's going to try and get damage down on that tower to equalize at least the mirrored tower that was killed earlier from Schalke. He's got his teleport available, so does Steve, so it's Steve that's going down there. Perks already has his tower. That is gone in favor of G2. And it means that they're just stalling out Schalke right now, getting ever so slightly further ahead. Remember, they have a Ryze, they have a Sivir. Yes, it's kind of equalized by a Victor and an Ezreal being on the same, on the opposite team. But there is a lot of potency for G2 the later this game goes to.
There absolutely is. And the value of that Ryze Sivir Karma combo actually goes up the moment you group them together. The versatility of the AoE shield or AoE speed ups and then the AoE damage, it is scary. So G2, they even out the towers. They maintain a 3,000 gold lead, and we're about to crest 30 minutes in game. GA is up as well, so G2 have actually got that extra half-life to play with.
Yeah, Perks is going to be pretty strong, especially once he hits that level 16 point. He's not too far from it. But when you look at it, I like the itemization from Expect. He's not going the Blade of the Ruined King that we've seen some people go, which makes you very glass cannon on this Irelia. They know that there are 2 exhausts. He has been behind this entire game. So what he says is, well, I'm just going to go for the tanky route. I'm going to get Frozen Heart, slow the attack speed. That'll hinder some of what Steve wants to do. It'll hinder some of what Rales wants to do in that scenario as well. So Expect is playing within this game is not just building randomly. He's not going, hey, I'm Irelia, I'm going to kill some things. He's like, no, I need to play for the team right now.
Needs to be sensible. G2 were actually peeled away from this Mountain Drake as Schalke had started setting up their Baron vision. And this late in a game, one team fight could determine the victor.
PvE mode.
Yes.
Expect. Raid boss down.
Which is good, because he's had to play a lot of PvE to get the gear up before he can challenge the PvP.
Luckily, Trev, with his itemization, he's been rolling Need instead of Greed. So it's working pretty well for him. Trick has been caught out, though.
Yeah, but the drops just haven't been in his favor, so Expect needs to find a little bit
off
more
on this
opportunity. Perks is lingering in the bush. He's waiting to teleport in. I don't really know what was happening there, but Schalke have set up pretty good vision behind G2. 2 sweepers, no pink wards. So G2 got to do a little bit of work to clear that out. Unfortunately for Schalke, there's only 1 teleport available for them, so Fox always has to remain in close distance, whereas Perks can have the option of playing a side lane.
I think that might be a new clan name for me. 2 sweepers, no pink wards. I think that's pretty much a way of life right now, how to play. But for this point, Schalke, I honestly think a lot of people would have counted them out. Looking at this matchup,
I did.
Against G2, saying, I don't think they'll hang with them to the point where this game's still going. 30 minutes, 32 minutes on. But Schalke are in a good position. They are still behind. Let's not lose focus on that. But Steve is fairly strong, can still hold the 1 versus 1 against Expect for now. They still have a lot of damage from Fox, who has got that Lich Bane, gets that extra cooldown reduction, which is not coming from anywhere else on him. Perks and Expect have shown up, but they are fairly far away from this fight. Perks is trying to come around the side. Will a pillar come out? Good pillar from Steve.
Fantastic play from Steve, but a flash forward from Trick. Expect's looking for rolls. The first victim is Trick. G2, they've not relented yet. Steve's on the front line. The rest of Schalke are low, running for their lives. G2 are backing away. Perks caught by a cocoon. Gilius has a venomous bite to pop a GA. Now Perks is in trouble. Expect's taken down. G2 have lost 2 in a fight that they initiated.
An uncharacteristic mistake from G2. Normally, Trick's engages are on point, and he got the good knockups that he needed. The problem is the pillar from Steve denied one flank. Then the Chaos Storm denied the next flank from Expect coming in from the bottom side, and G2 couldn't bring their damage to the fight fast enough. Schalke ended up very low, and there was still the opportunity for Sven to maybe clean that up. But the initial setup was one that we don't normally see G2 make. It just wasn't coordinated because of how good the denial from Schalke Null Fear was.
And Schalke know the teleports are down. They've already grouped towards Baron. The farm alarm comes down. Trick needs to pull off a hero smite. The rest of G2, they've grouped around. Sven is on the northern flank as Rals, he arcane shifts aggressively, looking for Mithy. Here comes Perks. Baron gets interrupted. It's down to 5,000 hit points. True Shot Barrage not able to kill Mithy. Perks running forward. On the hunt has been used. Movement speed from the discount. On the hunt for Mithy too. And Baron gets stopped at no cost just yet.
No cost. Even Expect managed to arrive before the Baron actually got completed. So G2 were able to hold on for now. That was a tense moment. So look at how far out all these TPs go. They go into that pink ward in the river, both of them. And it means they have to try and cut down. Steve already knows the entrance path. Thanks to the pink, the blue trinket ward that comes out here. Look, Trick flashes forward, gets the knockup onto Gilius, Sprattle, and Fox, but he gets shredded down, blasted out of the fight to begin this one. And it meant, look, Expect cannot cut in. He had to deal with the Chaos Storm, and from there, Schalke pulled forward. Expect is still scared. He knows that there's a potential of an exhaust, but both actually had already been used in that fight, so we could never get in to clean up. And Schalke ended up low. G2 started the Baron while we were in that replay, but they pulled away.
They have indeed. Steve's teleported in. The rest of Schalke have grouped up. Ultimates are all available shortly as Ral's True Shot Barrage comes off cooldown. And that advantage that G2 had built up, that level of control that we had come to expect, is now being challenged. Schalke looking comfortable post 30 minutes. Blade of the Rune King, Muramana, Triforce.
Trick's coming in from the side.
Oh, Trick, he's got to be
again.
careful. You can't flash and unburrow because it's on cooldown. And Schalke are able to successfully disengage. Now, this is one thing that Schalke may struggle with a tad. If they don't get a good cocoon or a tag from Sprattle, they don't have the strongest engage.
But then you look at the options for G2 right now, and G2 don't have their TPs to play on the side lanes. So G2 are kind of stuck in this scenario of trying to get a flank onto Schalke, trying to punish and overextend from Schalke, but if they can't, they just have to concede and wait. They have to wait for a few more minutes until these teleports are available, so they can then punish Schalke for only having one teleport available. And at that point, G2 will look to be aggressive once again, but for now, they're both going to be content to kind of be hands-off and just wait this one out. It's on Schalke to try and make a play to come back in this without G2 making a mistake themselves.
We'll find out if this Baron bait is a mistake. Number of pings in the top lane as G2 peel away from the Mega Raid boss. I asked Mithy last week why G2 always looked a little questionable in game one of most of their recent series, and he said he doesn't know, and it's looking again.
Schalke pushed too far up. G2 have decided to start the Baron. They're tearing this down very quickly. In goes Gilius.
Gilius comes in, but he's going to take some Baron damage from behind. The team fight breaks out in front of him. Baron's been peeled away. Nobody's tagging it. Baron continues to help out Schalke, and it's hammering down G2. Baron resets. It's a top laner for a support trade so far. Burger goes down shortly thereafter. It's Gilius that takes him out. Fox has flashed forward. Wow! Trick is able to bite down and secure the kill. Raw's arcane shifts away to safety. 2 for 2, and Baron is interrupted.
G2 attempted the Baron while Schalke were pushing up to mid lane, hoping they could rush it down. They didn't actually come out with the Baron, but they do come out with a little bit of a win on the fight there. And they're going to go for it again. Sven comes back. Trick doesn't even fully heal from the base. There's no smite available in the area for Schalke, but G2 are going to be doing this fairly slowly comparative to their whole team. It's down to 4,000 here. Rales is around. They're going to try and chunk down Trick, but it's gone.
250 mana, it's secured. G2 take the Baron. A gutsy call.
Oh!
It will cost Biffy his life. But I think that's definitely worthwhile. G2 regain control.
And if ever there was a good time to secure a Baron buff, it is as your 2 teleports come back up when you're playing a 3-lane composition. Schalke have got their work cut out for them now, as they're going to have to try and defend here with Baroned up minions. And with Elder Dragon available and G2 having everybody but Mithy, it's not even like Schalke can look to trade that. They have to kind of concede at least the area for now and hold on and hope that G2 don't secure this too easily. But with only 10 seconds on Mithy, G2, they're going to start this one off.
While G2 have got Baron, Perks was dead when they secured the buff and Mithy died, so 3 members remain. They'll be happy if they can secure the Elder. Rawls, however, will be able to join the ensuing team fight. He's just about closed the distance. And G2 have peeled away, keeping themselves safe for the time being.
In fact, Expect doesn't have it either. So neither of the side laners, thank you for bringing that up, Trevor. It's a big factor here because it's only going to be the mid lane pack that will have it available. So that is a big factor for G2. Something that can be quite difficult to keep a track of. You can see Baron power play just hanging out there. It's been somewhat equalized by Schalke getting a bunch of kills and a bunch of farms. So let's take another look back at this first rush Baron attempt from G2. Perks takes so much damage to begin this off here, and I want to see how much damage Trick comes out with later, or if it's actually Sven, because Fox is doing so much for Schalke from this fight. And it looks good. Perks dies. Looks like everything's going for Schalke, but Fox tries to go in. Who does he get tagged by for the massive amount of damage? Yeah, Trick gets the kill counter on that one, but Sven is the one that actually deals a massive amount of that damage. Oh, we're into an Elder Dragon attempt. Trick's going to rush in.
Steve's going to teleport in. Gillies has got himself a GA. Perks' GA's come off cooldown. Elder should be secured here very cleanly by G2. True Shot Barrage is way too late. And this just means that G2 with Baron wearing off, with Elder to buff up their team and the 4,000 gold lead, they can look to use this very powerful team fight composition of theirs even better.
You can see Expect heading topside. Wave's not quite pushed in for him yet, though. A whole lot of GAs in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly another one if Trick does send that chainmail that way. Could be very extended fights.
Schalke can't even defend this tower. Not worth the risk right now.
Nope.
Trick will have his flash available shortly. 30-odd seconds, 30, 35. And the way he has been playing, Trick has been the initiating force for G2 on the front line. Unfortunately, it's been a little bit early at times. And he's got to be a little careful now.
Gotta be very careful out on these side lanes as well for Schalke. With G2 having control of that middle lane now, with that tower being down, once vision is established, that's the kind of situation where if you're a Trundle, if you're somebody that's stepping up to try and clear a wave, easily G2 can come in behind you. Maybe look to set up a TP or something like that. So we'll see what Perks is doing. He's waiting around. This is the position because Trick, if this was a solo player out on the side for Schalke, Trick would come across with the rest of G2. It's actually what they're doing in this scenario, just trying to push him away from the turret now at least.
Ooh, looked a little scary. Sven uses that spell shield. Manages to block what I believe was the cocoon. And the chainmail was actually upgraded to a thorn mail for Trick, so not going to be another GA. But G2 have to get through 2 of Schalke's. Now the Dragon is just wearing off. You can see down in the bottom lane, Expect with teleport is pushing. He's going to go head-to-head with Steve, who does not have TP. Only 50% of the cooldown has begun to tick away. And Sven forced to run for his life, respecting the all-in potential that Fox has.
No Baron buff right now for G2 means they've got to back themselves away. So it's going to be stalled out for a little while longer. G2 have a bigger lead than they've had all game right now. And honestly, this is where we get to test G2.
Yeah.
Once again, into the late game. How do they play while ahead? Normally, that's a question that we'd say, how do they play while behind? But for G2, I feel like this is the biggest issue that they have had, is once they get to this point, how do they make the right decisions? What decisions do they make? Because they have frequently been caught out in these scenarios and haven't always lost because of it, but certainly...
I quite like that. What decisions... Oh, very good spell shield from Sen. What decisions do G2 make? Keeping in mind Expect...
They're going to decide to TP soon by the looks of Expect. Oh, Gilius. Oh, Trick didn't know until it was too late.
Yeah. Wasn't able to find the TP that maybe he wanted, but also there's a GA to burn through, so a lot of additional damage and time has to be invested to get that through the itemization. But yeah, second week as a full-time starter in that top lane position for Expect. Rough early game. And we may be in for one more big team fight. The Unbreakable Shield, slightly the wrong angle. Sprottle's in trouble, not even gonna get the Fisher down. Perkz is able to flash forward aggressively. Rawls is running for his life as Gilius gets chunked down. Critical hits bouncing across the team. Here comes Expect and Trick. Trick flashes forward, knocks up Steve into the air. Defensive flash from Gilius before he's forced to repel. Now Steve, he continues to run. Expect's not done. He dashes forward at the Blade Surge, gets one. Gilius taken out on the back foot as the GA revive comes in. The Trundle Pillar knocks Sven closer. 3 members of Schalke are down, and G2 will crack open the base at 43 minutes in game.
It had become so difficult for Schalke to get anything. Cocoons were easily blocked by Banshees. There were Guardian Angels. There's a Mikhails on the side of G2. So the actual options for Schalke had run fairly dry, and they were trying to make a push up mid lane to hold on to something, try and get any kind of pick, and it just transitions into an overextend, and G2 come out ahead from the fight. They can continue to push in for the base. Again, Expect pushing in through the bottom lane. They're going to take a second inhibitor turret here.
They're going to look for more. Sprottle's been able to respawn, puts the Fisher down just because it looks good. That's not going to do anything to slow G2. And Methodical, every inhibitor turret, every inhibitor is the target. Expect won't be able to finish the bottom lane though, because he doesn't have the support for it. And he backs away. G2, that could just be the final nail in the coffin.
So you can see here, Schalke looking for individual picks, trying to just lock down Perkz, lock down Sven at that scenario, but there was not enough. Sven even has himself a death stance right now, so a lot of this damage is ever so slightly reduced, so Sven's able to heal a lot of it back up. Schalke, they're going to go for the all-in play. They're going to try and rush it. Expect is pushing in the bottom lane. He's got the inhibitor already. Schalke are rolling the dice here on the hopes that G2 don't steal this and ace them. It's going to be the end of the game. G2 are TPing back.
Yeah, G2 are looking for the back door. As long as Schalke are kept busy or unable to recall, they're still on the Baron. They're finally backing away, but Mithy's going to interrupt the bunch. Fox will be back just in time.
It's too late.
Watch his Nexus die. Perkz and Expect hammering down on the Nexus turret. Here comes Steve. The minions are helping out. The Nexus turret, one more hit. It's taken down. And G2 are victorious.
In our intro package for the day, we saw some fairly famous backdoors. We saw the Peke backdoor, we saw the Froggen backdoor. Unfortunately, I don't think that one quite goes down in history with the same kind of effect. G2, they had already secured themselves a significant lead, a game-ending lead at that point with all the inhibitors going down, but it was the right decision to be made by G2 nonetheless.
Yeah.
Get 2 people down there. Schalke, they were trying to rush, trying to get anything they could, but unfortunately, it was not to be.
No, it wasn't. And I think you said it best, that for Schalke, it was rolling the dice. It was a last-ditch... Thank you for that. Yeah, my collar's a bit messed up there. Sorted out the back. But yeah, for Schalke, it was a last-ditch effort, rolling the dice. I think we didn't quite talk about how limited their engage options were, and it came back to bite Schalke. While he's giggling, we're going to head to the LCS to break down that game.
Well, thank you. I'll immediately follow up on that. How much could we tell off the beginning draft? Did you guys have the same idea that they would get into trouble later in the game because of it?
I think that looking at G2's draft, they do scale quite well with the Ryze and the Sivir. In terms of the late game team fight damage, they have a lot of it. You also have the Aurelia to act as that split push threat, but you're always going to get to a point with a Trundle where he's going to stop that Aurelia being too effectively split push. So you're going to be forced into these late game team fights, which G2 don't necessarily lose, but when you're going up against a Victor who's going to be building the Rylai's as well as the Ezreal who's going to be going for the blue build, it becomes very difficult to hard engage onto this composition of Schalke, which G2 somewhat struggled with in the later game.
Yeah, a couple issues with the draft here. I just don't like the Aurelia pick this late. You could have easily went for a Nars. If you look at what G2 built here, clear 1-3-1 composition. indicated that it's failing is because they played pure death ball in the middle of the game. Like, they were really stuck. And then Irelia is not a death ball top laner. If you want to play that style, not even Gnar isn't really, but the Gnar would have won the 1-3-1. If not, just pick up the Trundle yourself. Echoing the point, I think Mr. Rawless on the other side made the mistake of not going Iceborne, because I think Iceborne is fantastic against like a Rek'Sai coming at you, an Irelia coming at you, even a Ryze. Any additional slows would have won a lot more fights, and that is what we saw a lot of, though, this game, a lot of fights.
Yeah, a lot of fights. That Irelia obviously probably coming out does seem to be kind of the comfort pick for Expect. We saw it 3 times already before this week. As you say, a lot of fights. Let's start with the beginning and the first blood, something that Fox should have seen coming, Frank.
So instead of going over the entire game, we're just going to focus on a couple core concepts I think that were very pivotal decisions in the game. Right now, this is Perkz teleporting back into the mid lane, but Fox's flash was blown earlier by a roam from Mithy. I think that's very important to remember. We can roll the clip, and as we see, why would Perkz ever teleport back in here despite there being a gravity field? It's because Trick's coming up from the left side, and for me this is a positional mistake from Fox. There's nothing he can do once this play turns out. The second he sees TP, he needs to bolt. He needs to get the hell out of dodge, because he knows or should expect the jungler to be around. He's down a flash, and I think those are the things that Schalke needs to shore up still.
Yeah, it's really a matter of Fox disrespecting the potential of a play being coming out from G2, and the fact that G2 have a history of making these early aggressions, and Trick and Perkz in particular have this great synergy of setting Perkz up for success. Fox just didn't respect that and ends up getting punished for it.
Yeah, now after this play kind of happened, Schalke still got a lead because they got the lane swap, and in the lane swap, Irelia performs really poorly, in addition to the fact that G2's bot lane couldn't assert their dominance with a 2v2 matchup that was heavily in their favor. Like, that's why Schalke got a lead. They started playing the map, but G2 still showed that they have some good reactions with a double TP play, and that's our next replay that starts, and that's what they need to do more, in my opinion, is look for this double TP, because this is Schalke sieging. Cocoon here, very vital from Gilius missing, because it turns the entirety of the fight. Now Expect and Perkz come in, and it's kind of it's a death ball, but from at least from different angles. And I think that G2 needs to look for that more, because later in the game they kept going death ball from the front door, and it was very easy for Schalke to counter.
I do want to praise Shox for his use of the gravity field, though, because many... sorry, Fox. As well as Shox, I'd like to praise Fox for his use of the gravity fields, because he was doing a really good job of locking up the front line of G2, and he was getting full channel ultimates onto the Rek'Sai and the Irelia, who typically, yes, you're going to have a tanky Rek'Sai, but that Irelia gets shredded down insanely quickly, which means that Expect couldn't have the same sort of backline pressure combined with the defense reductions that you have coming out from the Trundle. It means that Irelia died too quickly for him to have any real impact.
And you saw the kind of other end of that play, where if G2 doesn't surprise in the second replay that was on our screen right there, is if they can peel from the front with the Braum and some of the pillars slow some of the G2 members down, they can isolate objectives like that. I think Infernal Drake they took there. In the end, it was still G2 pulling ahead, but it could have easily went Schalke's way, I think, with some slightly different execution in fights. And we need to criticize G2 there. I mean, they're a #1 team. They need to shore these things up. I'm questioning the Irelia pick and how they kept it in the game. Expect was put low priority, low econ, and he fell behind a lot, and Steve could have carried this game.
Yeah.
For me, there was also a lot of questionable TPs. There was this big fight where they had so much vision that allowed them to make a really good team fight in the mid lane, and then instead they're not teleporting in the right places to maximize their setup for these fights. And that could be with Expect still coming in, but we'll have to see if they fix that moving into Game 2.
Yeah, as always, when you're on top of the league, we have to criticize those things that they can improve on. And Schalke could have won that game, so they can bring this back to a 1-1.
Definitely impressed with what Schalke's brought to the table. Something I think we need to track in next game is whether Gilius gets outpaced in the jungle again, because he's getting consistently outfarmed, even last week in the series versus Fnatic.
Even on his favorite Elise, on which he has been doing very well. Player of the game, still on the slate, is Sven out of G2. We highlighted him before the game as well, crushing it in the across all AD carries in Europe, but again, a solid game from him.
His positioning in a lot of those team fights was instrumental, and the fact that he was still maintaining such a massive CS advantage over his lane opponent just demonstrates how powerful he is as an individual.
Yeah, Sven's biggest strength is realizing when his teammates get aggressed upon, and then he steps into that space kind of that gets created. Like, if they're attacking the Ryze or the Irelia, that's when you see Sven aggressively step forward, sometimes flash forward, knowing that this damage output may get him killed, but it will win the fight. Especially on the Sivir, late game damage.
Yeah.
Just so much in these AoE team fights.
Yeah, G2 taking it home game 1 here over Schalke. But now for a look at the action on EU LCS 2 between Vitality and Giants, we're going to check in with Sifa.
Thank you very much, Shox. Of course, while G2 and Schalke were battling out in a longer game, things were a little bit faster over on the side for Giants and Vitality. Of course, as we jump into our first replay, you can see that things start off pretty good for Giants overall. They're going to pick up a double kill here in the top lane, and how they do it, a little bit of luck. Almost feels like kind of a Christmas present coming in here, or a birthday present coming in here for Smitty J. You see Hustlin spots him out with the seed, lands the snare, and from here, Giants simply have more members on the top side of the map, and it's very easy for them to pick up kills from here. Kasengi's doing his best to survive, but at the end of the day, it's a simple collapse coming in from Giants. They get 2 kills, they get a small lead, but unfortunately, this is where things start to go south. You can see Max Lore happy to pick up that first kill. But as I mentioned, it's not all golden for Giants, and as we move forward, Vitality, after a good turnaround on the bottom side, transition into a fight with an ace. You can see Cabo constantly on the front line. He's gonna flash in here to secure this fight, doing so much to secure the team. And unfortunately, Giants don't have the consistent damage here to come out with a team fight win, in addition to the fact that, quite frankly, Vitality are executing better than they have in the last few weeks we've seen them. Now, as we approach towards the final kills here, you're gonna see that from this, they're able to pick up their 3rd Dragon as well as a Baron, and then transition this towards the end of the game. At this point, they've got a massive lead. They've got 3 Infernal Dragons backing them up, and it's a clean and simple closeout to come in from Vitality. You're going to watch Nuke Duck. These last few kills just going to ensure that the team can push in safely, that they can close out this game, and give Nuke Duck a little bit of an opportunity to style. Kasing, of course, bringing in the backup. What we love about that Tom Kench pick, and while Nuke Duck does drop low, that empowered Q just makes it so easy for them. But overall, very strong win coming in from Vitality. They are now into Game 2 over on EU LCS 2. But we're going to need to take a quick break here on Stream 1, and we'll be right back with Game 2 between G2 and Schalke, no fear.